Okay, so I have a couple of these that I'm gonna do because I'm binging media right now. So whenever I get off work, This is the first book I cracked open in a while. This is also the first book that I've enjoyed enough to finish in a while. I like fiction, okay? I've realized that, like, nonfiction sometimes, but I like fiction. Um, The Young Elites by Mary Lou or Marie Lou. So I read the Legend series. Did I ever finish Legend? Like the series? I know I finished the book. I know I started the second one, but I don't remember if I ever finished. But that was middle school now. So that was what, 2012, 2013, every bit of 12, 13 years ago now. Um, and I enjoyed Legend so much. So when I decided that I wanted to get back into the habit of reading, I went straight to the Legend series. I think I finished that series, so I think that's why I was like, okay, let me try another series by her. And I was interested by the plot synopsis of the Young Elites. Now, I will want to say this is not spoiler-free review. In order to get my full thoughts, I have to talk about everything that happened. So if you need spoiler-free thoughts, this is one of the most interesting books I've read in a while. I enjoy the world. I think the author uses her strength is in descriptive imagery. Like, you can weave together the scenes like a movie in your head when you're reading this book. And I think that's what I love the most about fiction, the fact that I can picture it like it's a movie. You know what I mean? It makes it a very effortless read. All the characters are lovely. The characters do their job and they are very well written. And the book paces very well. I started this 2 days ago, and I was only on page maybe 80 or so earlier today. And when I got off work, I just spent a couple hours and finished it. It was that good. It was that addicting. So, very good book. The plot synopsis is all I can really say without spoiling much of it. So, yeah, that's the spoiler-free part of it. Now, the most important part is the characters. And I've never felt so polarized about a series in my life. It's because of the main character. Like, because of what ends up happening, where she pretty much fucks up everything throughout the entire story. She fucks up everything. It makes you not like her almost. Like, it's so very weird. Like, I've never experienced something like this where I really like a character. And I really like the setup that she has, and I really find her motivations very interesting because she is alone and afraid and mentally broken. And yet it is very clear that she is longing for a sense of belonging. And she has a lot of love for her sister, and she tries to find love in the people around her. And it's very interesting how in the beginning of the book sets up everything so well. It sets up her father as her antagonist that haunts her throughout the entire thing. It sets up her skepticism and her sense of distrust in just how she even describes her sister from the very beginning. And you can see that she is mentally fractured. Like, she has a very deep sense of distrust, but she yearns for it as well. And so the entire time, like, you're seeing all of these characters, like Raphael, who I love. It's one of those things where it was for a teen novel to have it where he is at least like sexually fluid and he works in a brothel, and like, or a pleasure palace as they like to call it. Um, and you can tell that he didn't choose this life. You aren't sure why he's in this life. You aren't sure about his entire backstory. They never really tell you. But I think that's for the better, because the fact that you don't know it enhances his character. And you, like, part of the reason you love him is because he shows a lot of affection towards Adelina, who you're also rooting for, or at least me. But part of it is just him himself. Like, everything about him is very welcoming from a character standpoint. Like, you're rooting for him. You're rooting for his interest. You start to root for Ienzo's interest as well, because like all the ways that he acts, like you picture nobility and you imagine these stuck up rude people, and he has an air about him that would communicate that until you learn about him and you see him personable. Like, it's not just with Adelina because he likes her, it's with everybody that's under his care. He is not really treating her with any kind of special favor per se, like they may perceive him to be. I think he is just treating her with love and affection, as almost like a friend. I'll just say a friend. Like, they become friends. Like, yes, like they start to almost see each other as lovers, but it's like they're friends. They are, like, that's the most important part about it. Like, he cares for her as a friend, just like he cares for the rest of the elites under his care as their friends. But he's like their friend and their caretaker and their protector. Like, he's like their friend and their father almost at the same time. Like, you can tell the reason you start to root for him is because the way he treats and the seriousness in which he treats the Dagger Society, he would make an excellent king. And the dilemma that Adelina tries to present us with, well, the Dagger Society aren't that great because they pick and choose which Malfetos they allowed to just be executed and which ones they decide to save. But at the same time, maybe I would feel that way if I was a kid when I was reading this. But as an adult, it's like, no, that's a choice that is very particular, and I understand why they make. They can't bog down their time and not only waste their powers, but risk themselves in every single rescue attempt, because not only are they a small group, not only does that waste resources, it also just puts them in the line of fire more than they need to be. Like, every move they make is calculated. Them trying to get into the Tournament of Storms was calculated. Them setting off all the fireworks and blowing up the ships at the harbor, that was all calculated. Everything that they do, even down to the last confrontation when they're trying to get Raphael out of there and kill Terran, like, everything about that plan, you can tell Ienzo and the rest of the group are calculated and very precise with what they do. So those attempts to paint them as something else never really works on me. I see through that. I think that's just Adelina holding on to something that even she doesn't really believe, to try to use them, to try to use against them in the end, to make it seem like, there's some kind of moral dilemma, and there's really not. It's just her fault. You know what I mean? And it sucks because she really is trying to be helpful, but you understand what Raphael tells her at the end. It's like, it's not that you're not trying to be helpful, it's just that you aren't helpful. You are uncontrollable. You are a monster. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she is a monster, and it's tough because you're rooting for Adelina to be human. And in the end, like, the fact that, I understand her father's death was a mistake, but by the end, it's like Every death was a mistake. Dante's death was a mistake. Enzo's death was a mistake. All the deaths except for the ones that she needed to kill were a mistake. And it's one of those things where it's like, by the end, you circle all the way back to even her father's death, and you realize, like, no, it doesn't matter that it was a mistake. Like, it being a mistake means nothing because you can't sympathize with her because I think the reason I feel that way is because I started to like the Dagger Society members. So her tearing everything they loved and cared about and coming in, and in the matter of however much time she spent there, whether it was weeks, months, however long she was there, right? We know at least a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months. At least a month. So within the span of, I'll at least say weeks. Within the span of weeks, she comes in and completely dismantles a family. It's more than just taking away Enzo's shot at the throne. It's like she dismantled their family. She killed two of their most important members. She broke them up from the ground. You know what I mean? Like, even if the epilogue is hinting towards Enzo actually coming back to life, maybe Dante too, it doesn't matter, because one thing that other stories has taught me, death is death. So even if you could bring someone back to life, the initial reaction to them being gone is very real, and it sticks with people. You know? Like, it's like, even the reason that the lady at the end, her brother changes, I would imagine it has something to do with the fact that he died. You know what I mean? Like, even if he tries to act normal for a time, it's going to come back to, once you've experienced death, and none of us have ever experienced death and come back, but some people have been close, and they're really never the same after that, because once you've gotten that close to it all being over, or in like a fantasy world, once it always has been over, and then even if you come back, you're probably never the same person again after that, you know? So even if Enzo comes back, even if Dante were to come back in the next book, which actually I haven't read, I haven't gotten to, it's on the way. I ordered the other two books because I love this one so much. So they're coming, but even if they were to come back, which may be hinted at the end, it, like, you're still almost upset at Adelina, and she's the protagonist of the story, but you're upset at her for tearing away the family that you were rooting for her to join because you started to like them. You know? Like, and it's like, even if it was an accident, it's what happened. You know? It's what happened. And I think that's the most beautiful part about it, where it's like, I'm going to read these next two books, and it is very interesting because I have no clue how to feel about following this girl from now on, you know, and her story. Like, somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm always going to be like, she's a monster. You know what I mean? She messed up a lot during her short amount of time, and it's like there's almost a resentment from the audience now. At least in my experience, there's a resentment from the audience point of view. There's a carefulness. You kind of fear her now, and I don't think I've ever. It's so fascinating because I've never had a book series that has made me feel like this about a main protagonist. You know what I mean? Like, the person you're going to be following for the entire series. I've never had this kind of feeling where I'm going into book 2 of 3. So there are at least 600 more pages of this story that I have to be able to read. And I'm going into it with a sense of trepidation because it's like, I don't trust her. I'm looking at what she's gonna fuck up next. I'm almost like, yeah, I don't know about this girl. You know what I mean? And she's the one that I've been rooting for the entire book so far. She's the one that I've been peering into her every thought and her every action, and I know that deep down in there is a good person there, but you get to see the darkness corrupting her and it's taking over her, and you just know by the end that it's probably going to end up taking her over. And so now you're afraid. You're afraid of the person you're supposed to be rooting for. You know what I mean? And is that what she feels about herself? Is that what everybody else around her feels? Maybe even her sister feels that way. You know, that's why she wants to protect her from herself. It's one of those things where you realize, like, her father was right, and like, he wanted to create a monster out of her, and he succeeded. You know what I mean? Like, he succeeded. And that's why his ghost always follows her around, because it's a reminder, like, he may not be there in reality, but he can say from the depths of wherever his soul lay, where it's like, you know, whatever he was trying to do, it worked. He just didn't get to reap any of the benefits from it. So I hope it was worth it. And now we get to follow along with her journey and realize, like, it's hard because, like, you don't want to be upset with her because it's not her fault that she's like this, but at the same time you're fearful of her, and it makes you question, like, you know, how do you treat the things that you're fearful of? You know, because this is just a made up story, this is a made up character in a made up world, but it's like, the fact that I'm fearing her now, the fact that I have trepidation about her, lets me know, like, if she was a real person, if these were real events, like, I would have prejudice towards her. You know what I mean? Like, and I know her story, so it's not even like, oh, I'm acting like that because I don't know her story. I'm acting like that because that's what humans do when they are a bit afraid of something, you know? And this is the first book to make me realize that and challenge that in me as a person, and it's coming from a fictional story. So that's what I really think about it. You know, going into every detail about it isn't necessary. I think that's the most important part of the book that I took away from it. I can't wait to get to the other ones. I'll have a video like this and from every book in the series. I have a video like this from every book that I read from that one. I'll just talk about it like this because I'm doing the same thing for the anime that I'm watching. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Those are my thoughts. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.